Did you know that you're probably making a simple choice right now that makes playing music much less enjoyable than it needs to be? Or that you could change all that in an instant and enjoy your playing much more? This is the power of the Tetris effect. In this video, I'm going to explain how the Tetris effect always affects your playing, for good or for bad. And we'll go into some of the research that shows just how serious the implications can be. And make sure you stay around until the end, because I'm going to show you a simple exercise you can do that not only counteracts the negative impacts that the Tetris effect can have on your practice, but it's also going to allow you to harness its power to improve your playing and help you enjoy your music more. And while you're watching, make sure to like, share and subscribe if you're enjoying the video. Now, you probably know Tetris. It's that game where different shapes fall from the top of the screen and you have to rotate them to create unbroken lines. Now, a study at Harvard Medical School got people playing Tetris for 3 days, huge amounts of hours of Tetris over the course of 3 days. And what's interesting is when they stopped, they literally couldn't stop seeing those same shapes everywhere. And not just in their dreams, but in their waking hours as well. One of the participants talked about going to his running training and seeing patterns of darker bricks on a brick wall near where he was running, and he just couldn't stop himself from thinking how he'd rotate some of those dark bricks to fit in with the other ones. And he had similar experiences in the supermarket, seeing cereal boxes and looking at skyscrapers in the city. And this became known as the Tetris effect. So what's going on here? Your mind is always seeing the world through filters. So when you've been playing Tetris for ages, and that's really strong on your mind, everything you see looks like something out of a game of Tetris. And it's exactly the same for everything else. If you're setting your filters to see positive things, you'll notice all the good things happening and you'll miss the bad things. If you do it the other way around, you're focused on negative things, you'll see a lot of bad stuff and you'll miss the good stuff. It's not that these things aren't happening, you're just selectively choosing what you see. It's exactly the same thing if you're thinking of buying a new type of car. Let's say it's a blue Citroen you're thinking of buying, and all of a sudden you see those all around the place. Your brain has been told, oh, this is something is important, I'll keep an eye out for it, and I'll really just bring all that stuff to the foreground when it's there. And the really important thing to understand about this is it's not just you get those things brought to the foreground, but other stuff recedes into the background because your brain has been told it's not as important. So where's the big impact for us as musicians? Well, there are obviously a number of these, but a really big one is to think about, well, what do we do in practice? We spend a lot of our time practicing, and what we're generally trying to do is get rid of mistakes. So when you're in the practice room, your brain has a filter on it saying, look out for mistakes. It's really important that I spot every mistake because then I can go and correct it. Now, this is great. It's really useful. It's a good thing to have there. Find the mistakes, correct them. But when you get into this habit and you're always looking for mistakes, you see mistakes everywhere, even when that's not what you're looking for. And you miss out. Remember, the other things that your brain hasn't been told are as important, they fade into the background. So you miss out on the good things, the things you're doing really well. Those don't seem as obvious to you as the mistakes. And when this comes to just playing for fun or performing, this can really skew things because you'll go in there with the same mindset, with the same filters, and a perfectly good performance that may be full of really good things, you will notice the mistakes. And this can have real impacts on your perception of how well you're playing, but also how positive, how optimistic you feel. You can get a real negative, down feeling about this because you're just not seeing the good things and you're getting a really, really twisted view of how well you're playing, how well a particular performance went, whatever it is. And this not only affects your perception of how good you are, but it affects your motivation to practice in the future. Because if you're constantly seeing only the mistakes, you feel like you're not getting better. You feel like you're not doing the good things, and that can really tank motivation. And there's some research on this that I think is very relevant. It looks at lawyers, and it turns out that lawyers are 3.6 times more likely to suffer from depression than the rest of the population. And you'd have thought high status job, lots of high pay, all those sorts of things, this would be a surprise. But where it comes from is that relentless focus in what they're doing, to spot flaws in arguments, to spot inaccuracies, to spot mistakes, their whole training is teaching them from law school onwards to be critical of what they see and try and find the flaws in it. And this is leaking out into the rest of their life, because again, it's not a bad thing. It's a really important thing for their job, but those filters don't just happen in the times when they're needed and they're easily put down elsewhere. It leaks out into the rest of their life, their family life, their hobbies, all those sorts of things. They're always looking for the flaws, always looking for the mistakes. And this is what causes the negativity, the unhappiness. Like I said, exactly the same in music. We are being trained in practice, where we probably spend most of our time, to look for the mistakes. And it's just really important not to let that filter out into everything else we do. Now, this sounds bad, but remember, I promised you a simple exercise you can do to counteract this. And it's as simple as this. After every practice session, just take a time to think of, and preferably write down if you can, 3 good things that happened in that session. All this is doing is you're balancing out that time you've spent looking for mistakes so you can correct them by deliberately looking for some good things, and 3 is a good number. And 2 really important things that this does. The first is, for the practice session itself, you've finished up by finding some good things. So you've counteracted in the moment that little bit of negativity. But the really important, the really deep thing here is, when you know that you're going to have to do this after every practice session, your brain is prepared ahead of time. It is going to be actively looking out for those good things, setting a filter for those good things just much more widely, because it knows it's going to be asked at the end, what were some good things that I noticed? So by having that intention, it's not just giving you that 30 seconds of, now what were 3 good things? It's actually making you much more likely to see all the good stuff all through the practice session, all through what you're doing. So you've seen how the Tetris effect can impact our negativity or our positivity. And it's not just about our enjoyment of music, it also has an impact on your performance because of your self-belief, on your motivation, so how much more likely you are to keep practicing. So bear it in mind. Please do the 3 good things exercise. It's really short, but it really does have an impact. Now, there are other mindset things too that also have a really big effect on how we judge our playing, whether that's good or bad. So I definitely recommend checking out my video on why your playing might be better than you realise next. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.